Aaron Rodgers was once regarded as a very elite quarterback, one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL all time. And as of right now, he's been knocked down to 3-9 following a loss to Seattle. And I think his future in this league is really uncertain. And I kind of wanted this opportunity to talk about what was most likely to happen. He could stay with the Jets, he could retire, he could sign with a new team. It's all very uncertain. So in this video, I'm just going to discuss what I think is going to happen to him. But first, before I did that, I do want to discuss how we got here in the first place. And going into the season with a recovered Achilles and, in my opinion, a better team culture, I would personally say that there were very high hopes for Rodgers and the Jets. However, in the 4 to 5 game mark, I myself was having some doubts about their ability. But it kind of solidified for me more so with their loss to Pittsburgh, and this was right after they had just acquired Devontae Adams. I believe that their chances of making the playoffs were already pretty rocky, but after that, they went like 1-3 in the following games, and right now, 3-9. Their season's over. It's just done. So that's how we got here, and that's what created all this uncertainty. So the first, and I think the most unlikely thing that's going to happen, is that he stays with the Jets. And the reason that I say that is because his coach, the GM, OC Nathaniel Hackett, they've all been fired or demoted, and the guy who owns the Jets, Woody Johnson, has already been rumored and already well known been rumored to wanting to bench Rodgers and have wanted to do that since they lost to Denver 10-9. And just along with that, he's also lost the locker room completely, at least in my opinion. And obviously, we aren't the players, we aren't there, we can't really tell for sure, but that's what I think. And if I had to guess, the only people that I think are still with him are his friends who he brought in from Green Bay and or other teams like Lazard or Devontae or Malik Taylor, all the guys who are still there. And the relationship between him and the front office, to me, is way too sour to re-sign, especially in a contract year. The next possibility that could happen, and something that I don't think necessarily is going to happen, is him just straight up retiring after this year. The reason that I think that is because despite the 3-9 standing, he hasn't been performing extremely poorly. Yes, he has regressed a lot from Green Bay, and to me looks very uncomfortable in and out of the pocket when he's under pressure and not in a completely perfect pocket. But I still think statistically he's going to draw a lot of interest from other teams, and that's, to me, why he's not going to retire, because he's going to want to be in the spotlight. And I think that with his statistics not being necessarily horrible, there's going to open up a possibility with signing with more teams. And the other reason why I think there's going to be more teams that are going to want him is because, to me, he's also not a guy who hogs money. He's not a contract guy because he's a lot older. He's already made his money, and we saw with the Jets he was taking contract cuts to bring in people he liked, which is his sort of a flawed strategy and doesn't necessarily lead to team success, as we've been able to see with the Jets, but that is something he does. And what I think is the most likely scenario is that he signs with another team in the offseason. I have a few in mind, and I think there's other ones that are super long shots or something that we're just unknowing of the context. But I'm going to discuss the ones that I think are likely and which ones I think are more of a long shot. And the other thing, and this is to me the most important thing when I was deciding these teams, was that whatever team he goes to, he'll be the starter. He will not go out of the spotlight to be a backup. That is not the type of player he is. And if he does do that, please call me out on that, because I will be absolutely surprised. So the first team that I wanted to discuss was the Vikings. And I would like to say that this is the most likely team that's going to sign him. I don't believe that they're going to re-sign Sam Darnold. And, despite him playing at a solid level, Darnold is still young and is most likely going to want a long-term extension and a long-term stay as a franchise quarterback. And to me, this is obviously not going to work out too well because, the rookie J.J. McCarthy. I think there's a chance that McCarthy won't be ready medically because of his second surgery plus whatever else he has to do. Or he won't be well enough adjusted after all this stuff to go into the season. He had the 2 surgeries. He hasn't as much time to perfect his craft, and he still was a rookie this year. So I don't necessarily think he will be the most adjusted, and a lot of people don't know this, but even before the season started, people were saying, the Vikings coaching staff were all saying that McCarthy was around the QB3 level, not even as a backup, and there was a chance he might have not even been in the backup, but at the end of the day, he became that. But when preseason hit, he got injured, and Sam Darnold took over. And this is why I think it is somewhat likely that they could offer Rodgers a 1 probably not a 2-year deal, but a 1-year deal. And I think they'll let JJ sit for 1 more year, whether it's medically or a skill reason. And obviously, this is also what I hope happens the most, just so we can have that mirrored career to Brett Favre, and we can keep this ritual going, because you know what, Jordan Love, you're going to be a Jet in 15 years, whether you like it or not, and then you're going to be a Viking in 2 to 3 years after that. So I hope this one happens the most, and I also think this would be the most likely, outside of missing context that we don't have yet. Another team that I could see taking a shot at Rodgers would be the Browns. I'm not necessarily firm in that statement, but Deshaun just sucks, and, you know, they're still stuck with him, most likely. I just think that to keep Kevin Stefanski to keep his job, I just think they're going to bite the bullet early on and just bench him indefinitely until his contract is up, or until they can cut him without incurring an extreme dead cap hit. And I think this is where they could bring in Rodgers, and I like to think that if this did happen, if Aaron Rodgers became a Brown, I do believe that he would be able to stay for longer or have more future success in Cleveland than he would be in Minnesota. And like I said, the only reason I say that is because Deshaun, thank God, he's almost out of there. Give it another year, so he'll be out of there. I don't necessarily think that the guy they're going to draft is going to be better than Rodgers out of the gate. And it's the Browns. They're going to do weird things, and I could totally see them doing this. Another team that's sort of a long shot that I could see taking a shot at Rodgers would be the Saints. Derek Carr is obviously extremely mediocre, and he's had about 2 years now to perfect his craft in New Orleans, and he is not in the slightest performing up to standard with his contract. This sort of situation where I see them bringing in Rodgers is them getting fleeced in the draft regarding their quarterback position, and or not believing in Spencer Rattler. They're going to end up coping with a short-term deal with Rodgers, and I think it's going to be similar to what it would be in Minnesota. It'd be a 1 to 2 year deal, more likely to be a longer deal than in Minnesota. The fit itself isn't bad at all, and I think New Orleans is one of those teams that could be a quarterback, a coach, and some cap money away from being a good team. Another team that I think Rodgers could be a part of in the next season, but while is also a long shot, is the 49ers. In this scenario, we're assuming that Purdy is either long-term with an injury, or he comes back and he's just playing like crap. You know, to give Purdy his credit, he's been good, but even before his injury, he hasn't been great. And someone like Rodgers could come in, take over for Purdy for a season, and go for sort of a farewell tour for him. This would probably be Rodgers' last year. I don't think he would go for a 4th team after this, because I do believe that, obviously, between all these teams that I'm about to talk about, I do think that the 49ers still have the greatest chance of winning a Super Bowl. And I do think that Rodgers does want to win a Super Bowl for his legacy. I do think this is a long shot, but I also do think it's not completely out of the question. And the last team I'm going to cover right now are the Rams. I think this might be the most out there prediction, but with the potential of Stafford being replaced plus a quarterback fleece in the draft, a Rodgers bridge signing isn't really that impossible if you really think about it. I do believe regardless of Rodgers' presence there, the Rams are going to clean house. They're going to get rid of Stafford. They're going to get rid of Cooper Kupp. And with those two gone, and I think, you know, with Sean McVay still being their coach there, I think when they draft, you know, like I predicted in my last video, which blew up for my channel standards, by the way, thank you so much, with them drafting sort of a Quinn Ewers, a Jackson Dart, a Jalen Milroe, someone like that, and letting them kind of sit behind Rodgers for a year or two is not a bad idea at all. And I think that and in fact, I wouldn't even say this would be the most out there idea. I don't think it's going to happen, but I do think it's possible. And those are the 5 teams that I just wanted to talk about today. I think that Rodgers' future in the league is very uncertain. He could retire, he could stay, he could get he could sign with another team, but I still think he has a good 2 to 3 years left in the league before he's completely undesirable or unwilling to sign. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and there will be another upload coming later this week. And again, thank you so much for the support on the last video. I was very uncertain about how this one or how that one was going to do when I uploaded it, because I had taken a massive break. So I hope you guys have a great day. See you.